What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Reflection Concept Podcast. My name's Anthony Pecora. I am an artist, musician here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My website is reflectionconcept.com. You can find all my art, my music, photography on there. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel here. Greatly appreciate that. Hop over to Empire Music's YouTube channel as well. Please subscribe to that. I know a lot of you know me from that channel. That's my job, so to speak, but lots of gear demos on there, basses, pedals, things like that, and some really exciting stuff going on at the shop. Got a fresh remodel, got some new brands, one of which I'm going to show you here. Please hop over to there. Follow me on Instagram, Anthony.Pecora, Reflection Concept, at Anthony.Pecora, at Reflection Concept. Greatly appreciate that as well. Probably the best social media platform to see my stuff. I don't post all that much on Facebook as it pertains. Let's just say I post less on Facebook. Instagram seems to be a nice kind of spot for that. So as the title would tell you, a lot of new stuff in my life right now. Some planned, some not planned. Man, gear is funny because sometimes we all do get gas occasionally, and gear acquisition syndrome is a very real thing. But some of which I really needed to get. Let's start there, actually. So I was at my girlfriend Valerie's house last weekend. And when I go over there, I will usually pack a small portable recording rig just to shoot some Instagram content over there. And I plugged in to my interface and it broke. The input, like old school USB, it broke. Now I'm going to grab it here. You got to see this thing. Got 15 years out of this. About 15 years. Yamaha Audiogram 6 was certainly not my sole interface, but this thing has been with me, and just the USB jack on the back broke. And I've recorded so much music with this cheap, I don't even know what it was when it was new, $150 maybe. And now you can still get these, and I swear to you, they're still good. The mic pre's in it, bass direct in, are solid. Like it's that Yamaha pre's are just good. I got so much use out of this. I used to have a band when I lived in Dormont, little suburb neighborhood here in Pittsburgh, PA. And I had a band called When the Planets. And it was created as a band I was in, a rather successful band by local, regional standards, whatever you want to call it, called the Mandrake Project. Kind of dissolved. And I was like, man, I got to start writing music. And I didn't know what to get. I was playing like an old Hewlett-Packard laptop. And I bought this because it was cheap. And I worked at a drum store. We were a Yamaha dealer. So I got this even like probably right above cost or whatever. And man, I'll never forget trying to set this up with like drivers and things back in the day. When stuff just was harder to get talking to each other. I swear I spent 3 weeks just trying to get this thing working and having zero knowledge of recording into a computer other than I had seen people do it. But like all of my personal recording experience was on like, some BS Tascam, little 4-track, the old school stuff. I think I had one with an SD card, or maybe it was like a Boss one or something like that. But nonetheless, this was with me for a long time, and a lot of the content that I shot for Instagram, which I'll admit at times was lackluster. I think my playing was fine in it, but I don't think the audio quality was all that good. I use this, and a lot of the stuff that I think sounds really good that I've done for Empire Music, I use this because I could just take it with me. It's not made to be portable. It's actually pretty big, but man, it broke, so I had to replace it. And my home interface was like the UA 476 volt. Solid, nice little, I'd say I would probably classify it as a little bit above entry-level interface. But it was cool. Had some shortcomings to it. Now that becomes the portable interface. You could probably see, I'm not going to pick this thing up. I'm delicate with it. I got the super new Apollo, super nice, relatively new Apollo Gen 2 X4. So a very, very substantial upgrade here to the recording rig. It makes doing this podcast better. It makes creating music better. The workflow is becoming improved substantially. Very, very cool. And camera probably looks a little bit better than the GoPro. I would hope. I think I got my Fujifilm autofocus thing figured out. If you see my eyes, I'm trying to make sure I stay on the lens, but I have a tendency to drift over this way because I got the screen flipped out on my XS20. God, I got to remind myself to look that way when I'm filming. So I apologize for that if my eyes start to wander. I'm checking the little autofocus box on the side there. It's always a work in progress, right? Like any rig is a work in progress, which this video is not about that, but I'll make a quick side note. We deal with this stuff all the time at Empire Music. I deal with this stuff in my personal life all the time. If you don't start doing something, you will not get better at it. It's, and I don't want to turn this podcast into some motivational type of thing. I'm always happy to talk about that stuff because I think I have some good insight because I've battled a lot of different forms of resistance. If we want to relate it to like the Stephen Pressfield war on art kind of thing, I've battled that, and it's a daily grind. Even doing this very podcast, I was telling my girlfriend Valerie today at lunch that I didn't even want to write like the the storyboard or like the storyline for this podcast yesterday, and I was finding other things to do to avoid doing this. When it's like, if we would just get to work and do the thing that you need to do, but like resistance is such a powerful thing to trick you into doing other things. And it was like, getting bogged down because I'm not sure on the autofocus on this. Like, if I don't start using it and there's some imperfections on it, I'm not going to get better at it, or realize, hey, I got to buy a Sony, or realize, no, the Fujifilm's cool. I can figure this out for it. So, whole other topic. Maybe we'll dive more into that in the future. But sticking on the topic of new things, right? So we got the new interface. We're working on kind of a new recording setup here. I'm always looking to improve that. So I'm excited about it. I got the lights set up in the back, and behind me, you'll see it's not really a prop. It's up there for a reason. And I talked about this last week. Oh, I'm stupid too. Like, really, really dumb. Last week I told you about my gig right back from NAMM. I had a gig at Experimental Guitar Night. I didn't hit record on my GoPro, and I set my GoPro up. How about that? Comment below if you've done that. Anything like that. Oh my God. So I did a 20-minute set right when I got back from NAMM, like the day after or 2 days after getting back from NAMM. Poetry Lounge, which I said was, I might have edited it out because it was wrong. I said it was in Lawrenceville. It was in Millvale, and it was actually the oh God, I can't think of the name of the bar that it was. Nonetheless, if I think of it, I'll just blurt it out at some point in this podcast. So I had a gig, and I got there. I bolted out of work like 10 minutes early. Got there in time. Had to the load-in was kind of bad because that kind of parked like around the block. There was no easy way in. Had to walk in through the front. There's like people there. There's somebody playing. I get set up. I shouldn't have taken an amp, but I didn't have like my in-ear setup really dialed in from when I was using it last. So I didn't feel super comfortable doing that. Man, I really should have set that up, but NAMM threw a curveball in that. But so I get in there, and I had taken my little bi-amp rig, which I'll show you that pedal board too. I'm like kind of working on a pedal board that'll sit near my amp, but it's also kind of modular to be pulled away for when I'm doing a recording. I'll show you what's on it. And I showed it briefly in the last episode. But so I get set up, I sound check very, very quickly, just make sure I have sounds. I have a relatively complex pedal chain, hence the reason I'm going to get into the next topic. I promise I will do that. And I take my bass off, go over to I find a door jamb. I have a little clamp, which I had it over here for my GoPro to set up on. I clamp it and I say, Anthony, just start it now. Just start the recording now. You're going to play in 3 minutes. Bumping in the mic there. And I don't. So I go back on stage and they introduce me. I introduce, greet the crowd, talk a little bit, played for like 20 minutes straight through. Cool set. Did some good things. Probably did some, I don't want to say I did some bad things, but definitely wasn't my most focused ambient performance. I've done some of those that are very, very gratifying. Not this wasn't gratifying, but I didn't quite get a flow state going with that, which if anyone out there has done any music like that, that's important. And I didn't hit record. And I wish I would have had that performance to reference. So I'm only kind of going off my memory. And my friend, the person that had got me on the gig, Eric Sorelli, did send me some phone footage of it. And if you go on my Instagram page, it's just Anthony.Pecora. I'll say that again, at Anthony.Pecora on Instagram. You'll see some of it. I kind of edited it together because it was a weird kind of editing 3 clips down into one to make a little bit of cohesion out of it. And I didn't love everything I played in it. And even on that clip, there's one moment on that clip that I might even have it in the computer, so I could probably flash it up on the screen, and I'll get some audio through it. Actually, let me check that out if I have that here. Yeah, actually, I can play it. I'm going to play it through the computer right here, and we'll kind of talk through it. So that's me running like a little loop. And there's a point in here where, pardon my language, I play the most bullshit line. All good so far. I start dancing on pedals. Octave up, running over a loop. Here it is. I hated that line so much. I'll explain why in a second. Everything else was kind of cool. This kind of fades out here. And this was actually the first thing I played. I don't know why I didn't put that in the proper chronological order. Ring mod out of the HX Stomp. Anyway, I'll stop that. And I just close that screen right there. So that line, that bothers me. And I intentionally left it in the video as a reminder to because it's not all roses, you know what I mean? It's like, try to post the best shit on social media, but it's not always going to be that. And try not to be fake about that stuff. Even though stuff I play on there, multiple takes or whatever. But nonetheless, that I was dancing on pedals. I was trying to get a loop going, and I went in autopilot, and I just played just this, probably something like this. Something like that. Just some dumb little minor pentatonic box thing that was so on autopilot, and it just reminded me, seeing that, of when you're playing music like that, intent is everything. I would have rather screwed up the loop than not played that line right on it, or I would have rather screwed up that loop than had played that line and played anything else than that, because that to me was just I heard it back and I was just and it, it's a live thing, so probably no one, I don't know, maybe there was someone in the audience that was bullshit. But it bothered me, and ambient stuff's tricky like that. But nonetheless, didn't hit record, so the only footage of that stuff is over on my Instagram page, and obviously I have some stuff on my computer. But next time, lesson learned, I'll hit record next time. And then on the topic of new, right? So I think I got a new gig here in town too, which is cool. I'm going to be subbing. The first gig's not out until May, and it's very, very different for if you know me and have talked to me and kind of know the music that I like. Obviously, you just heard some of it kind of, I wouldn't call that outer forms of music, but maybe some non-traditional things. There's a 90s band that my girlfriend knows the band members, and they had reached out to me because they had seen some of my stuff online, and thought I knew my way around a bass, which is highly, highly suspect. but offered if I wanted to like sub the gig. And my goal at the beginning of the year, the last 2 years, I've played less than I've ever played in my life. And most of that by design. I said no to a lot of things. I wasn't actively pursuing gigs, but I did say at the beginning of this year, on top of 50 YouTube videos, 100 Instagram videos, making sure the social media end is really, really up to snuff, and it is high quality. Hopefully, I want to play more in town. So I was like, if I can get 6 gigs this year, that would be cool. I think I literally might have played 1 gig, other than what dear friend and I, Lou Ross, have done ambient wise out of a place called Steamworks Creative. Don't really consider those gigs because that's something different than that. Another topic though. So there's a band in town called My So-Called 90s Band, and it's a giant book of tunes. Like those dudes have like 160 tunes. So I'm working my way through, and John, the main guy that's reached out to me, super, super smart organization on there, sent me like a sheet, like an A list, a B list, and a C list of tunes. John, if you see this, and I'm sorry, I'm spilling the beans on your, but I won't say any more than that. But anyway, working my way through the A list, 'cause that's like the hits, B list, kind of hits, C list, maybe not so much. Working my way through A list, and hopefully, you'd probably get like 40 to 60 tunes down by the time the gig. If I can get 50 down by the time the gig hits, we'll be in really good shape. So something a little bit different for me, and I'm excited about that, actually, to like learn some tunes and learn some tunes I don't. It's always good to learn some tunes you don't particularly having trouble talking today, particularly like, and you find yourself kind of liking them because you're just the ears are in a different space than listening for enjoyment. You're listening for the intent of learning, the bass part to it. So excited about that. So hopefully some stuff on the horizon for the summer. I'll keep all that updated. But so that's a new thing. And then the next new thing would be the pedal board, right? So I was talking about that for the ambient gig I had, and I was lucky to score on Reverb. It's back here. One of the beautiful Vertex, like the 29-inch, the big, like the Tour Elite pedal board, in great shape. It had a couple holes drilled in it for like a Trox power supply, which I won't be using, but like who cares? I got the board and the case, which is a massive road case. If my in-ears don't fall out, I'll show it to you here. Like, check this thing out. It's huge. I mean, the case is huge, right? Dude, I got the case. Talking to the mic here. I got the case and the board for like $400. And now it's a question of building it, right? So starting off, it's the same pedal chain that I was showing you, the Una by Believable Audio. This is a buffer that goes in the front. This is where I'm at for right now. Into volume pedal, right? So just a little safety thing going on there. And then HX Stomp XL. I like the big one because I want the boards. I have this set up. Not really. I just put 6 effects right here, and that's it. So I really just replaced like 6 pedals with this. But I can tweak the hell out of them, which is cool. And then now's where I'm not sure if I'm going to go into. It might make its way back on the board. I crapped on this pedal a bunch of times, even though I love the sounds. Boss SY200 might be cool to have. And the ideal thing with the ambient, or with this pedal board, is for the ambient stuff. Into the old school pork loin, back in love with this. Pork and pickle stays on my really, really tiny board, which could go to this so-called 90s band gig. Tensor here. Astral Destiny. And then the most badass delay pedal out there, I think, Space Echo, Big Dog. And then maybe finally we put the Boomerang on a board for the first time, honestly, ever. I've never put this thing onto a board. I'm debating that. Or do I keep that as a standalone thing? That way I can move it, have it in. It's nice to be able to put the looper wherever you want it on the floor setup that makes sense. So like I said, like I said about the pedal dancing, with the type of thing. So now I have to think, because I'll probably run, the second board, as if that's not big enough. This, and I showed you a picture of it or a video last time. I'll show it a little bit better. Oh, that came off. Oh, man. There we go. Contact strip came off there. All right, so this board has the JHS color box on it and this little Bite Heaven splitter, and this is just a power supply. But this color box has really become my main go-to for like the last thing that I go into. So I've been basically considering this like the preamp for really everything I've been doing. I recorded a few things today that might be up on my Instagram page with this new bass that I'll get into in a second. That didn't have this on it just because it was on the other side of the room, so I went direct in. Plus, I wanted to kind of hear what the Apollo was giving me, just raw, without this color box on it. But this JHS color box is it. I mean, it's such a great pedal. And then that little splitter box is a crossover. So I run the highs out to like a Tone Master Princeton, lows to my dark glass rig, and I run into just the effects loop in the back. So I'm not really using any of the preamp or the tone shaping out of the dark glass. Which, to be honest with you, right now I loved it at some point. I don't love it right now. I don't know if it's something that I'm not doing right. If it's just my taste has changed. It really just kind of depends on that. But so redoing the board, and I'm redoing it. I'm soldering all the cables. It's totally a Vertex, Mason Marangella, Rig Doctor. It's literally everything that he says to do, I'm just basically doing for my rig. Just makes a lot of sense to me. Sorry, my eyes are wandering here, making sure I'm hitting the points that I want to over here. I got the new gig, talked about the guitar night, or the experimental guitar gig, and the new pedal board. All right, so cool. That's that stuff. On to the big news, right? Not even news. It's not news. I'm just talking here, right? It's not, no one really cares. It's not news. Got a new bass. So I said some were thought out purchases. This was a total splurge purchase, but it was too cool not to get. So as I said in the last video, and obviously you just heard this bass just for a quick second earlier, we got RKM basses at the shop, right? Because I talked to Umberto and crew at the NAMM show, and we bought 6 RKM basses for Empire Music. They're amazing. They're doing really, really nice things. I got turned on to them through Yannick Guizdala's channel, who's a bass hero of mine, and someone I really, really get a ton of inspiration from, even though we don't play anything. I don't say we don't play anything like each other. I don't play anything like him. I mean, there's nothing. There's really no comparison there. I mean, Yannick is absolutely world class, and his educational sense is it's just amazing. And his playing, his phrasing, everything's great. But he has his new signature RKM and his signature Madison bass, which is they're both killer and different. But he has that new double P from RKM. So I wanted to swing by the booth at the NAMM show and did that. Linked up with those guys. Got to talk to Yannick really quick. I said that in the last video. No need to go back over that. But we bought some RKM basses, and Umberto sent them into the shop. They're nice. We're going to be selling them all except this one as like NAMM demos, because they got played on really, really good at the NAMM show. And we're going over them. Joe Medea, our one of our techs there who does great work, is going over those. And I made notes on every one, like just get new strings on it. If there's anything we can like buff out of it or something. 'Cause like there were people just slapping and everything on it. And that, speaking of slap, that kind of leads me into it. Like, so one of the basses that has eluded me forever is just a good slap bass. And I bought a Modulus Genesis bass thinking that was going to be like the slap bass for me, right? Bartolini's in it, Bartolini preamp in it. That was going to be it. And it was a lot darker than I thought. And what I ended up liking out of it was more the bridge pickup, mid-rangey, has great low end out of it too, but like wide open pickups with playing back a little bit more, has this really, really cool tone, which I ended up liking. I never loved the slap tone out of it, so I was kind of disappointed in it from that, which I don't really care. I've always wanted one of those Genesis basses, so I was just happy to get one. That was just kind of a splurge purchase too. And I bought it the day Phil Lesh died, who played Modulus basses. Phil's an absolute hero to mine, like honestly, one of the most influential players on my personal style, especially on like, even though this is going to sound passe to say about like Phil, but like in open-ended kind of jam section stuff, man, I cop his like sensibility so much on that. But I was always looking for a good slap bass, so that was kind of top of my mind as well. And this came in, and this was actually not at the booth, so I didn't play it. It was over at another booth at the NAMM show, so it barely got touched at the show. So when I plugged everything in to check stuff out, I was like, oh, I didn't play this one, but I just said, we'll take it, right? It's a 70s jazz bass in the DS series. So DS is kind of like their below custom shop. They do like custom basses and then DS series. Still made in the same spot down in Monterrey, Mexico. Craftsmanship's really, really nice on this stuff. But more of, I'm not going to call it cookie cutter at all, but like less options, less custom options. So like, you know, I guess you could say how Fender has master built and then team built, or, you know, Sadowski has the, Metro line and then like the master built line or whatever, you know, things like that. This pricing's a little bit different on it. They're pretty reasonable. But the other tech at Empire Music, Aaron Hutzel, and I were kind of looking at some stuff, and he noticed on the back of this, I don't know if you can see it on the camera there. You probably can't because it's just etched on there. This is serial number 00001. So this is number 1 in the DS series. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. Like that should be just, I wanted to get an RKM anyway, because you kind of make that bond with builders and with people. And Umberto was such a sweet guy, and we got along very well. Just at the NAMM show, we've been kind of texting back and forth, just about like, you know, payment and the bases, and doing some content and getting them listed correctly on our website, which at the time this gets released, I'm not sure if that. Check out the Empire Music. Check out empiremusic.com and see if that RKM stuff up there. Great pricing on some really, really nice instruments. But nonetheless, I grabbed this, and the bass just, it sounds amazing. It plays so good. It's so solidly built, and it resonates like crazy. And I'm not sure on a lot of the specs. I think it's a 12-inch radius on it. I think. Obviously, it's a maple neck. I forget what the body wood is, but it's got EMGs in it, which is a little odd for me. I've never gotten along with EMGs that well, but this bass sounds great, and it's got the EMG 2-band preamp in it. So it's my first time ever having a 2-band preamp in there. Internal dip switches, so you can kind of tweak what the treble response is. So I got that tweaked a little bit to where I like it. Check this thing out. So nothing on it, really just going straight and no compression, no nothing on it. Really bought it to be the slap bass, and it totally gives me what I want. Really tons of that like scooped out jazz bass kind of thing. Fingerstyl's cool. But again, really bought it for the slap tone. And then here's that front pickup, so we get that thin kind of P bass sound. And then here's bridge. Whoop, that's volume. Here's bridge. Ah. But man, I probably won't use either one of those tones. When I get a jazz bass in my hand, I want it straight down the middle. I got bass boosted. Actually, no, bass is detent. I'm going to boost it now, and I got treble rolled back just a bit. That's it right there. That's it. That's what I'm using this bass for straight up. Here's a little compression on it. And here's with the Helios little EQ on it too. A little bit of buzz I was hearing that. I think it might be from the light because I wasn't noticing that before. Nonetheless, it's an awesome, awesome bass. And I probably won't be playing a lot of fingerstyle on that, but if I'm looking for a slap bass, that's totally where it's at. There's something about running that right into some nice compression that just sounds so good. LA2A is really become my go-to. I was using just the plug-in there in the UA console. But I have I think the HX Stomp XL that I have, or just straight HX Stomp, has a really, hitting the mic, nice, has a really, really nice LA2A kind of clone in it that I used on every preset. It starts literally, I've copied it onto the beginning of really every preset that I have in here, like the 6 tones that I have, other than maybe the ring mod, might be the only thing I don't have the compressor on in that. So it's rock solid. Man, a fruitful week for sure. Got a new bass, RKM. Shout out to Humberto. They're doing some special things down there in Monterrey, Mexico, and I'm really excited that those are coming into Empire Music. I know that there's been some really, like I said, Yannick's been like showcasing his. I think Sharon from Scott's Bass Lessons got 2 of them. So they're getting into some really good hands, and that's great people. That's a great team down there, it seems. So happy to be doing some business with them. And this bass is awesome. It really, really filled that void. I just didn't have a great slap bass thing in there. And that's not something I play all the time, but I love that stuff. Like I love Marcus and that. I just like that sound. And I do really enjoy playing that way. Next week, I'm going to hopefully have some big news and some really cool things to show you from a recording session that I did almost a year ago. And it was a recording session I did in Ohio with some really, really close friends. Ryan Meals, they used to play in the Boogie Hustlers with, John Check, Kent English, and a drummer friend, Brian Nellums, who I didn't know until the session. But we made a record called the Nay Players. That's like the group, and we have a record called Naysaying. It's an EP that's probably out on streaming by the time you see this, but I have some footage that I shot over that weekend of recording. So gonna kind of sync some stuff up, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that. But and a quick note on Brian, the drummer. This is where music's amazing, right? And really where that connection and that language, you just don't see it in other ways, right? So I had never played Nels, they call him, that's what I call him by proxy there. So I'd never played with Nels before, and he sits down at the kit. I put my bass on, I played my Empire 58 on the entire recording, P bass, with rounds, not flats, So you would hear it and think it was sounding like flats, but it was rounds. He played 2 notes, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Like we literally, and then like we played like the smallest of little riffs together. We just looked at each other. We're like, yep. All right, here it goes. And you can hear it on the record. Like, we're locked in. That was one of the most enjoyable rhythmic dances I had done with someone ever in my life. And we had never met before. And at the end of that weekend, felt like I knew him forever. We really, really just linked right away. Our sensibilities, I think, in like the funk soul thing. And that's what this music is. So it's, if you hear me, I'll play this weird stuff, ambient stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, you see me play some not super wild stuff, but certainly not like in the straight funk soul thing. I've done a little bit of that. But this record has like the, for lack of a better term, I hate identifiers, but actually I won't even say that. It's kind of like got a funk soul kind of groove thing. It's based around Kent's organ, so that's a heavy interplay in that. And the first tune on the record is called Future in 84. That's actually my tune. So I was really like pleasantly surprised that those guys chose to open the record with it. But Nay Players, Nay Saying, check it out on all the streaming platforms. And then next week, we're going to talk some more about that. So that'll be more new stuff coming. And I think it's going to be a really, really good summer of music. I really do. I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited about this podcast. I'm super excited about everyone just listening to me talk about these things. And I can't thank you enough for checking it out. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow me over on Instagram. It's Reflection Concept. It's Anthony.Pecora on Instagram. Head over to the Empire Music page. Give us a follow on that side too. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate you sticking with me through this thing. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.